Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're getting right into the nitty-gritty of a fascinating engineering workflow, how we actually control water on a 4.6-kilometer road project. You know, whenever we build new infrastructure, we aren't just moving dirt around. We are fundamentally altering how water travels across the Earth. So, let's break down exactly how civil engineers tame that water, step by step.
So think about the core problem we're dealing with here. A newly designed road naturally acts like a massive dam against water flow. It's a huge engineering challenge, right? You lay down this solid band of asphalt across a landscape, and any water that used to flow freely downhill suddenly just hits a brick wall. And obviously, if we don't manage that properly, the road washes away, intersections flood, and the whole infrastructure fails. Controlling that water is essentially the invisible art of road design.
To solve this, let's just take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We're going from identifying the initial natural water crossings to placing box culverts, tuning our slopes and elevations, creating surface pipe networks, and finally, routing that water to safety.
All right, jumping right into part one, identifying natural water crossings by finding those low points.
On this specific project, we've got a major lag at chainage 475. Here, an intersection actually blocks water that's moving uphill, making it an absolutely critical intervention point. The road profile is sloping upward here, which means water flowing down from upstream is going to hit this intersection and just sit there. So this exact spot, precisely 475 meters down the alignment, becomes our ultimate priority zone for heavy drainage.
And this perfectly illustrates why we rely so heavily on stream points. These are vital design markers that act as our fundamental guide for exactly where this heavy infrastructure needs to go. In the software, these points correlate directly to the low points on our vertical profile. They're basically flashing red warning lights telling us, hey, if you don't build a massive tunnel here, you're going to have a lake on your new highway.
So that gives us a really clear three-step workflow to conquer the water. Step 1, locate those low points. Step 2, build the culverts for crossflow. And step 3, route the surface pipes to them. It's a beautifully logical system. Identify the threat, build your primary defense, and then manage that secondary runoff.
Moving on to step 2, placing the box culverts, which is our heavy infrastructure. When we're dropping these in, we usually have to choose between a standard perpendicular layout or a skewed layout. Now, if you're dealing with a raging river, you absolutely have to angle or skew that culvert so you don't violently distort the direction of the water and cause crazy erosion. But for this specific site, the currents aren't dangerously high, so standard perpendicular works perfectly. We can just run it straight across the pavement.
But, and this is a big but, I love this quote from the source material. Site study cannot be overemphasized. You still have to see the sites to actually design what is correct. You literally can't just rely on automated software. You can run all the 3D surface analyses you want, but until you actually stand out there and see the physical terrain and how the water behaves, you just can't know for sure that your digital model matches reality.
So knowing what we know, at chainage 475, we're not just sketching lines. We are dropping in some massive standard concrete components. We're talking about a concrete box, a full meter wide and half a meter tall, stretching nearly 10 meters across the road base, all capped off with a heavy rectangular head wall. It's like dropping in a massive pre-calculated puzzle piece.
Okay, let's hit part 3. Tuning slopes and elevations, which really comes down to the physics of flow.
I really want you to focus on this number, 1%, because in drainage design, this is the absolute minimum standard slope you need. Remember, water needs a reason to move, and that reason is gravity down a tilt. On this project, the engineer actually mapped a 1.8% slope, but keeping this 1% baseline in mind is critical for the long-term health of the whole structure.
Here's why. If we drop below that 1% threshold, or, a very rare 0.5% in extreme cases, the water stagnates, or logs, inside the box culvert, and that leads to total infrastructure failure. When water sits, it drops sediment. That sediment builds up, and eventually it completely chokes that 1-meter box closed. Once it's blocked, the water backs up, floods the road, and destroys the pavement. It's a domino effect.
Furthermore, we absolutely have to check the cross-section view to make sure our outlet isn't buried below ground. For this project, that actually required an upward adjustment of half a meter for the starting crown elevation. You literally never want your culvert to be sitting too low compared to the natural ground, otherwise it's just discharging into a wall of dirt. By manually bumping up that crown, we make sure the water smoothly exits out onto the surface.
Let's transition to part 4, creating surface pipe networks and catching that micro runoff.
This brings us to the top surface rule. Before we draw a single pipe, this software requires us to extract a boundary from the top links of the corridor. This ensures our drains actually sit right on the pavement where the water hits. If you skip this, the software might default to the datum, or the very bottom of the road base. And then, you'd end up designing drains buried deep under the dirt, completely missing the surface water they're supposed to be catching. Not good. Using this specific toolkit from the parts list, we can start building out the network along the edge of our newly defined road boundary. We're grabbing cylindrical structures with slab top and frame chambers to act as our catch basins along the curb, and we're connecting them all using 300mm corrugated metal pipes. It's honestly kind of like playing with high-stakes digital Lego, picking the exact standard parts we need for the volume of surface water we're expecting.
Which brings us to our final step, Section 5, routing that water to safety and completing the journey.
So moving from upstream to downstream, we draw out our network to collect water along the edge, using those variable slopes, and ultimately drop it directly into that heavy box culvert at chainage 475 to be discharged outside the project. We're taking full advantage of the road's natural downward profile here. Those surface pipes act like a giant funnel, gathering every single drop from the edges, running it parallel to the road, and then just dumping it right into that massive cross tunnel we built at the low point. The water is totally controlled and safely escorted away.
It's just a brilliant workflow. It turns a massive natural problem into a highly precise engineered solution. Which leaves us with a provocative thought. By mastering this precise journey of the drop, how will you control the unseen forces in your next infrastructure design? Next time you drive over a slight dip in the road during a heavy rainstorm and you see the water just magically disappearing into grates at the edge, you'll know exactly what kind of complex, calculated journey that drop is taking. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep looking for the hidden structures all around you.